Hey guys, we are back again for yet another episode of Blooming in Process. As I told y'all, I'm bringing y'all some bomb guests this season. We talking to some amazing women who are doing some great things for the Lord. I am so excited about my guest today. Trillia, is that how you say your first name?
You got it right.
Yes, Trillia Newbell. She is the author of several books, y'all, including A Great Cloud of Witness, Sacred Endurance, If God is For Us, Fear and Faith, and the children's book, Creative God, Colorful Us, and God's Very Good Idea. Like, wow, look at her go. I'm like, oh, Trillia, I love it. When she isn't writing, she's encouraging and supporting other writers and an acquisitions editor at Moody Publishers. Awesome. Trillia is married to her best friend, Fern, and they reside with their two children near Nashville, Tennessee. You can find her at trillianewbell.com and follow her on Instagram at Trillia Newbell. So we are welcome. Thank you for being a part.
Thank you. I'm excited to chat with you and your audience.
I'm like, let's talk to her. She is like amazing. And I would love to just dive right in. Like, I'm always like, let's just start talking. I know we have limited time. So let's just talk. Tell us who you are. Who are you at your core? Just give us a little feel about who Trillia is.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting question, who I am at my core. I guess at my core, I am a believer made in the image of God. So we start there for me. And I am a wife and a mom and a writer and a speaker. I have lots of different fun roles that I get to play. But ultimately, I'm a follower of Jesus. And so I even on my website, my motto is, or whatever you want to call it, where faith and life collide. So I'm thinking of and sitting in that kind of thought, discipleship and faith, and that really is me to my core.
I love that. I love that because a lot of times when I ask that question, I think that a lot of people, some people result to like what they do. And it's more so like who they are. Strip me of all of my titles, strip me of all of the things I've ever done. And this is who I am. So I love that. I love you saying that you're just a follower of Jesus. You just love Jesus. And discipleship, I heard you say the word discipleship. It's so huge, right?
It is.
So tell us, what has been your greatest life's lesson? I see you wrote all these books. So I'm just assuming that you have just a wealth of knowledge about what life has taught you and God has taught you.
Yeah, so I'm still learning.
Mhm.
I'm in the journey, and I'm
Mhm.
I'm running this race still. So
Yeah.
God has been very kind, but my life lesson involves suffering. I've suffered,
Mm.
I've experienced miscarriages and the death of
Mm.
family members. And so, what God has taught me is that He's
Mm.
faithful through
Mm.
it all. And that has been one of the biggest life lessons for me because we never really know what's going to, let me start. It's not that we never really know, we don't know what's
Yeah.
coming ahead. And we think we do, but
Mhm.
if we can rest in the faithfulness of God, then
Mhm.
sorry, I keep choking here, then we can rest.
Mm.
We can take that next step of faith. And
Yeah.
so God's faithfulness has been near and dear to me. And
Mhm.
it's been a lesson for me just to know and remember that what we read and what I speak about is true. And so that's
Yeah.
good.
Mm. Okay, where's my notes? 'Cause I feel like I'm gonna have to take some notes here because
You
you just dropped some bombs and I'm like, I'm gonna have to take some notes here. Okay, so she said faithfulness and suffering, y'all. Like, I hope y'all got y'all notes out because y'all know I'm like I'm receiving here
you
today. Okay, faithfulness and stuff. So tell us more about that. What did that look like for you? How did you learn that? And give us, like, I feel like there are a lot of people, not a lot, it could be a lot, but there is somebody out there that's in the midst of that season, right? There's somebody out there that's right there and they're just waking up every day, just making it, just making it. How did you walk through that season of suffering, and how did God show you his faithfulness in that?
Yeah, so I like this question because you're saying, okay, good. Theoretically, we
Mhm,
can see that on paper, but how does it really work itself out? And I
mhm,
think for me, there were a few things. First of all, every day I could see his either his provision or through friendships or through encouragement from others, through his word, obviously just refreshing me. But there were a lot of really tangible uh, gifts that the Lord would give. And so it was a reminder that he cares, that he would put me on someone's heart or someone's mind, or someone would bring a meal or something really tangible that would just be
mhm,
a reminder of his faithfulness and his goodness. But other than that, I also sensed it. I sensed his nearness. So
mhm,
I felt like I can cry out. I don't have to be tough, right? I don't have to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I can be weak.
mhm,
And I didn't feel shame or guilt. I knew, thank you for the Psalms, all of the Psalms, and so many lamenting and
mhm,
rejoicing, but there's lots of laments. And so I knew that God was drawing near. I could sense it. I really could sense his nearness. And so, and then in other tangible ways is when you ever experience something,
mhm,
you don't see it. Often we don't see what God is doing in the midst of it.
mhm,
We it's in the midst of it, we're just like just trying to wake up day by day. So if someone's listening and they're like, I'm just trying to wake up day by day, there there's a scripture that says joy comes in the morning. Well, that doesn't mean that tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and maybe have joy, but that could mean in 5 years you're going to look back and you're going to see, oh, that was hard, but I got through it. Well,
mhm,
God got you through it. That
mhm,
was hard, but I survived. Well, God is what helped you to survive. So he's the
mhm,
one who's faithful. He's the one who sustains. And
yeah,
so that for me has been a little bit more of it. I'll give a real specific example. After my second miscarriage, I
mhm,
remember I was in bed. I was so discouraged. I
mhm,
knew the sex of the baby. It was terrible. And
mhm,
I was just so sad.
mhm,
And so I had four total. And during after the second one, I did have a child and
mhm,
gave birth to my first child,
mhm,
or third child. But and
mhm,
then um, I remember the third miscarriage, thinking having a weird peace. Like
mhm,
I couldn't remember. I was like, wow, okay, I don't get it. I don't like it. It's painful, but I'm going to
mhm,
entrust my life and the life of this child to you, Lord. And that kind of peace only comes through suffering, only
mhm,
comes through after you've experienced it. And so
mhm,
I could see his faithfulness in that too. Like his
mhm,
scripture says that
mhm,
suffering produces character and perseverance and et cetera, et cetera. So I saw
mhm,
it. So I do
mhm,
think that sometimes it's not so much that we're going to see the faithfulness right in the middle of it, though I think that does
mhm,
happen. I think it's we're going to look back and say, "Oh, God was faithful." So that's
mhm.
how I've experienced it.
Mm, so much, so much. Woo! She just dropped so much. Yeah. So first of all, this is a message for those that are not only going through suffering, but also a message for people that may be supporting or around somebody that's suffering. She said that God showed up through the gifts and that was reminders that God was with her. So people would drop off meals, or maybe they would call or text. If you know somebody around you that is suffering, this is an example of how you can be the hands and feet of God in their lives. Um, and it's so needed, because I think sometimes when people are suffering, nobody knows what to say, right? Nobody knows how to, like, what do you say when when they're in this deep pain? Just showing up is often needed, right? Being there. Somebody told me, being there and being silent, like your presence, and not necessarily having to say something. right?
I think that's so important. I think that's actually, if I can just put an exclamation point on that,
Hmm.
because sometimes our words do damage. We're like Job's friends,
Hmm.
and so we want to try to fix people
Yeah.
rather than sit with them in the sorrow. So I agree with you. Carry on. I don't.
Oh my God, I'm just reiterating what you are what you already said. I'm like, yes. And then she said she allowed herself to be weak. She said, I can be weak because the Bible talks about when we are weak, he is then strong. And then you went on to talk about it was you made a statement. You said it was through the suffering that I experienced God's peace, right? This type of peace, right? And it made me think about like Jehovah. I want to say Elroy. Don't quote me on that. Well, he reveals himself as the God of peace. And Jehovah Jireh, he reveals himself as the provider. But I believe it's Elroy. I need to look it up because because I feel like when you said that, that's exactly the thought that came to me was God will reveal myself to you however you need it in the place that you need it. And in the Bible talks about him, let me see, Jehovah, and let's see, God of peace. I'm gonna Google it. Google is my best
Google.
friend. I'm gonna
Yes.
the God of peace, Jehovah Shalom. The Lord is peace. So I will meet you at the place of peace because I am Jehovah Shalom. I could be your provider. So okay. That was amazing. I love what you said, and I hope y'all taking notes because this is amazing. So tell us, we noticed that you have written like these books. So let's talk about those a little bit and give us a little bit of background on like what these are about and what people can learn from. Were these the lessons that you learned in your life? Just break it down for us, whichever one you want to choose.
Yeah. So yes, the books that I write are usually written by either Bible study. Those are the
Mhm,
Bible studies, so it's about God, right? Or
mhm,
lessons I've learned through my life, and
mhm,
how God has taught me and what I see in the scriptures. So those are some of the things that I've written, and I've also written for kids, um,
mhm,
and that would be more just discipleship and teaching. But
mhm.
I usually don't write. I never write about something that I don't have some sort of life experience about, because
Yeah.
I don't know, I wouldn't. Well, I just don't think that's the best way to approach writing.
It's hard to write about something that you don't know about, right?
Yeah, I would highly not recommend it. So
Yeah.
so don't do that. So Fear and Faith, for example, is a book that I wrote, gosh, many years ago, maybe 10. Wow, gosh, I don't even remember. A long time ago, it feels like now.
Yeah.
And I write about different fears that women experience in particular. It's not
Mm,
just for women, but I'm addressing women. And those a lot of the fears are fears that I've experienced, like fear of man, being afraid of what other people think of you, um, fear of failure, fear of the future, so
mhm,
fear of tragedy, just all of these different things. And what does God say in his word
mhm,
besides fear not?
mhm.
How do we fear not? Why can we fear not? So
Yeah.
those are because I've experienced that. And then
Mhm,
I've written a book called Sacred Endurance,
mhm,
because right now I see so many people not enduring, not finishing their race. I am in
mm,
the middle of my race, right? With
mm.
most people, anyone who's listening, unless you are on your way
Locked out.
to see Jesus, you're you're in the middle of
Right.
your race. And so I I just wondered what keeps us, what can keep, how can we stay? What's the staying power to keep us so that we finish our race, and the race set before us. And so I explore that. But that's because I'm in the middle of it, and I'm looking at the landscape, and I want to know, how do we endure? How do we finish?
Mm,
And then, of course, kids' books. I have kids' books mostly focused on race, um,
mhm,
at least the ones that I have written. So one's God's Very Good Idea about the image of God, and it's a board book for kids 0 to 6 or so. And then
Yeah.
and it really is just the gospel.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and then another one called Creative God Colorful Us that is a chapter book, and that it walks through really the gospel and the sin of partiality,
Yeah.
and how we can love each other.
You know what? I was looking in, I want to say, what is that store? It's not far. It's a toy store, not far from here. And when you just said that, I said, God's Very Good Idea. I saw that book in the store. And I think we might have we got so many books. Like we love it. And it was on like the diversity wall. You know how they do that now, or they like highlight the
Yeah.
Black authors. I think you were on that wall. So I'm like, oh my God, you guys. But I'm already like, these are all on my list right now. So tell us how you came, like, so what is the idea behind God's Very Good Idea? And then we can go into how you raise your children biblically and how that plays into that.
Yeah, so okay, so God's Very Good Idea happened. I was hunting for a Sunday school lesson for my
Mhm,
church. It was just my local
mhm,
church, and couldn't really find what I was looking for. So I was looking for something that taught about the image of God, the Imago Dei, something
mhm.
that taught about the gospel, something that taught about diversity, and the church. And I could not find it. And so I had to write it.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to write it. And
Yeah.
so I wrote this little lesson, and then I taught it to these kids, and the kids' responses are the reason for this book. I went to the publisher and I was like, listen, I just taught this lesson, and these kids, their response, maybe there's something here. And they took a chance on me. And that is how it was born. It was
Oh
out
my
of,
God.
yeah, it's really neat. And so I just really thank God for that. And so that's it. And what was your second question?
So how do you, okay, so you wrote these amazing Christian books for kids. First of all, y'all, she said she wasn't trying to write it. Like, let's just dive into that a little bit. How many of you have like this thing, like I can't find it. Like I this is what I'm looking for. And you might be the answer to the thing that you're looking for. Woo! That was something that I had to realize early on. I don't know, it was in my mid-20s at some point years ago. And I realized I have these like questions like, why there's nothing out there like this? Why is there nothing like that? And I'm thinking, you are the answer to what you're looking for. Maybe God is telling you to create it. And look at her. This is an example of Trulia doing that, stepping up and meeting people where like meeting a need in the kingdom. And now she has this amazing book out there that we all can use and people can learn from. Like that is just a word in and of itself. Okay, the second part of the question, I just be like dropping these nuggets, and you're just dropping them left and right. I'm like, wait, let's go back to that. Let's
But
wait.
it is really encouraging, and I really think most of the time we just need to take a step of faith and do that thing. And so I'm glad that you did. I also need to note you do not look like I thought you were in your 20s.
Everybody says that. I always get that. People are like, you're like so young. I'm like, y'all, I'm almost 40. I'm headed closer to 40, but you know that melanin, you know, it will trick you. It will trick
It
you.
will trick you.
It will trick you because people always say the same thing. But I'm like, y'all so kind. Yeah, no, I'm closer to that age, but I'm right in the middle. I have like I'm a older millennial, so I have like I'm get down with my millennial generation, but I'm like older on the older spectrum of it
I get
all.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that whole thing. But no, the second part of the question was about your discipleship and your children and how you have made a decision to teach your children about God. I'm always learning. Like I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and I feel like I'm just all always learning, like, how can I, make sure that they know God and enjoy God and have a good introduction to who He is. I mean, they go to a Christian school, and I'm always praying with them, but I want to hear from you how you do it for your children.
Yeah, so it's interesting because one of the things that God also did very, very early on is just reveal to me that I cannot save my kids.
Mm,
Only he can.
good.
I
Hmm.
just can't. And it was so freeing. So for me, I'm just teaching, I'm telling them what I'm learning,
Hmm.
encouraging them to read their Bibles, um,
Hmm.
being faithful to a local church and
Hmm.
encouraging them, which is thankfully they have mostly an eagerness to go, but
Hmm.
encouraging them to attend other events for youth.
Hmm.
Mine are 15 and almost 12, and which is so sweet. And so, but one of the things that we also do is live. This is going to sound kind of cliche, but live authentically. So I repent
Hmm.
to my kids, to
Hmm.
Thurn. My husband. I'm repenting.
Hmm.
We're living out our faith and not trying to button ourselves up like we don't sin, or like
Yeah.
we don't have bad days. Like they know, and they call
Yeah.
us on it as well. Wait till they get a
Oh.
little.
Oh, my son, he's 3, and he already, what are you doing? I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's funny. Even things that I don't even realize that, if I say something that seems, yeah, anyways, if I say something that seems off in any way, they are very clear and helpful in helping me, like, wait a minute, why would you say, wait a minute, what does that mean? So it's helpful.
yeah.
um so for us it's more of a like hands-on,
Mhm.
treating them like humans. So at the beginning, I think it would be a lot more like, God says this and don't do this and look at that,
Mhm.
but now
Mhm.
they're young, they're not young adults, but they're getting there. And
Mhm.
they're these young men and women,
Mhm.
who we're trying to raise up and teach the word, live out, walk faithfully together at
Mhm.
a local church. And so it's been really interesting. I don't think it's been what I thought it was going to be. I think I thought that it would be like a classroom, like,
Let me teach you.
kids, here's the Bible, and it's a little, it's not like that. It's a little bit more. And so it's a lot more like life. And I love it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
excruciating at times. You're like, your heart just, it's motherhood is something else. It's just,
I'm
whew.
just early on. I still consider myself a new mommy, even though I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. I'm like, I'm learning from y'all. Like, how? Help us.
Well, it keeps changing, and you keep learning. And right now I'm learning what it means to raise a 15-year-old who is in only 3 years going to be moved. I could cry. I don't even want to talk.
I
He's going to
can
be
I
moving out, and the other day he said, I need to plunge the toilet myself, and so because I'm leaving and I need to make sure to do that. And we were like, okay. And then I think it was like last week we were on a walk and he's like, hey, I really need to learn how to cook. I need to make sure I know how to cook, because his
Wow.
sister, she's kind of a natural. I don't know. She gets in the kitchen. She's not afraid. He's kind of like, he needs to learn. And so, but these are the, I know this is not about the Lord, but it is about
No.
teaching them life skills. And that's
Yeah.
also, I think,
Mhm.
part of what we're learning is that we're discipling them. I told him, hey, I'm your accountability partner. Your dad is your accountability partner for certain things, but so we'll walk and I'll say, hey, is there anything you need to confess?
Mhm.
And then I'll confess something. And so that
Mhm.
we're living lives. It's different than what I
Yeah.
thought, because they're like little humans.
And
Does that make
they, oh my God, yes, you you're so right. What's interesting that you said is like, I love it how they're coming to you, like telling you like what they need. They're saying like, I need to learn how to cook. Like I need like, and you're like, okay, adjusting, cooking. Okay, okay. We're talking about cooking. And I love it. I love that you go with walks on them as well. Like these are practical things that I think younger moms like myself, like we really we like hang on to those because they're so practical in nature. They're very easily to digest because I do believe these are little humans and they're all different. Like they're all different. Their personalities are different. How they process the world is different. My son and my daughter, they'll see me like doing something and I'll just talking to myself and they'll be like, mommy's having a bad day. I'm just like, oh yeah. Well, you go, guys. You have those bad days sometimes, and I don't even know.
Absolutely.
I don't even know that they were like listening, but they're watching and they're seeing, and I'm like, okay, was I a good example of that? And I'm always thinking about like practical things that I need to do. So I love that you just listed like so many practical things that you do with your children, just to be like their accountability partner and just being transparent with them, saying I'm sorry. That's one thing that we started to practice too with our children, my husband and I. Like even if we talk to each other in like a tone that's not good, we'll be like, okay, we'll get in front of the kids again and be like, mommy shouldn't have said that like that to daddy. That's not how we talk. We respect, a nice, kind, and obedient. That's what we go by in this house. So we don't want to be disrespectful, and mommy shouldn't have said that. And I'll actually say that in front, and we both do the same thing because we do want to model that nobody's perfect, not even us. Like nobody's perfect, right? And you're gonna have times when you make mistakes. So I love that you said that. So let's go with this. I know we're running low on time, but let's just end it with one of your hardest lessons to overcome, and then tell us how we can stay connected to you.
Okay. So I feel like one of my hardest lessons to overcome for what?
Yeah. So if you had to say, for instance, if you had to say one of my biggest lessons that God has taught me, and one of the things that I feel like I really had to deal with, I'll give you one of mine, was being controlling, and like learning how to let go and walk by faith, and not having to know the future, or not like, maybe I think I'm walking down the right path and this is what I'm doing, and then everything goes wrong.
Are you talking about COVID?
Yeah, that's a prime example. Everything goes wrong, and you're like, where am I? And like just feeling this need to control, and it's almost, I see that picture where that little girl is standing there, and Jesus has like, she has a little teddy bear, and he has a bigger teddy bear behind his back, and he's like, give it to me. Like I feel like that was me at one point, like, no, and then
I'm
I
not gonna give you
finally,
that little teddy bear. That's so great.
and then I finally gave it to him, and he gave me something so much better that I didn't even know that was there. So I was controlling. I can't say I'm fully healed of it yet, but I'm not where I used to be. I'm less control. So this is just an example.
No, that's such a great example. You know, I think something that I've overcome, but I still fight,
Hmm.
is fear.
Hmm.
I just can be I walk in faith on a lot of things with shaking knees. I do a lot of things that are scary, but I'm entrusting myself into the Lord, so I go and do it. Um,
Hmm.
but I think fear of like my kids and what their future, um, fear. Just I've had to battle a lot of fear, and
Hmm.
the Lord continually works in my heart, fear not, through kind of like what we talked about earlier. He's always
Hmm.
been faithful. So he's
Hmm.
always been faithful. So I can trust him. But that is something that I would never say that I have overcome. I
Hmm.
haven't arrived. I'm almost not fearless all the time, but
Yeah.
something that like you build a muscle. I don't know if you've ever lifted weights, but when
Yes.
your muscles atrophy, well, when you start to build, you can start loading on more weight and
Hmm.
you get stronger. And
Yes.
so before you know it, but you were, curling 2 pounds, and then all of a sudden you're curling 20. Well,
Yes.
that to me is what it feels like to fight fear.
Mhm.
Now that muscle has been built that I know I can quickly or more quickly
Mhm.
um, trust the Lord. And so that to me is a muscle that I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm grateful to the Lord that I don't fear, um, I don't fall into that temptation as much because I'm building a muscle of trust.
Mm. Building a muscle of trust. Let's write this down. Building the muscle of trust. Ooh, okay. I like to meditate on stuff. Like I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like that's so good, guys. I'm so grateful for you. I
Uh,
hate that our time has run out and I hate that we have to end it. But tell us and tell our audience that where we can stay connected with you and how, if anybody out there is like, I want to know more about her, how can they get in contact? I think we mentioned some things earlier, but just you can share it again if you like.
yeah. So if you can spell my name, you can find me. That is the hardest part, which I'm assuming will be in show notes, or if you're watching this,
Yes.
you can see my name right there.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
I am at Trillia Newbell wherever. So from Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Trillia Newbell, and my website, trillianewbell.com. And from there, you can find, I believe, my social media links at the about as well. So that's how you find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on our show, y'all. If you have to rewind a couple times, go ahead and do it. If y'all have to take out your journal, go ahead and do it. We talked about a lot of things today, and I'm just like, man, I don't even know which one I'm going to title this because there's so many things that we talked about. So I just want to thank her again for being a part of the show, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.